Of course. Here's section 1 fully written out around 720+ words, based on the outline we discussed. Hashtag section 1. The end of an era. The stars had never shone brighter. Across the thousands of human worlds, from the gleaming towers of New Earth to the endless arcologies of Europa Prime, humanity lived in an age of unparalleled peace. War had become a relic, a dusty memory recorded in old history books and simulated in virtual reality tournaments for entertainment. The last true conflict ended 1,000 years ago, and since then, humanity had focused on art, science, exploration, and personal fulfillment. The children of Earth had conquered their violent instincts, or so it was believed. In the great halls of the Galactic Concord, an alliance of dozens of alien civilizations, humans were seen as almost mythical beings, wise, advanced, and, above all, serene. Yet beneath that admiration lurked something darker: jealousy, resentment, and fear. Humans had expanded faster, terraformed worlds better, and established cultural influence across the stars. Their songs, philosophies, and technologies wove through every corner of known space. For some of the older, proud alien races, it was a humiliation too bitter to ignore. In secret, away from the Concord's shining spires, a new faction was born. They called themselves the True Concord. Composed of lesser powers who felt overshadowed by humanity's dominance, they whispered in hidden councils, stoking each other's resentment. They watched the humans dance and laugh, mistaking peace for weakness. They saw humanity's lack of armies not as a choice, but as vulnerability. Over centuries, their anger hardened into something more dangerous: resolve. And so, on an ordinary morning in the year 4000 ACE, after colonial expansion, every human world received the same message. The skies darkened as holographic banners unfolded in orbit. Screens, projectors, and even personal devices flickered to life, hijacked by an alien broadcast. A figure appeared, draped in ceremonial armor, his 6 arms raised high, mandibles clicking in a harsh, guttural language that was immediately translated into every known human tongue. To the arrogant heirs of Earth, your time of idle dominance is over. You have grown soft, fat, and weak in your endless peace. The True Concord rises to restore balance to the galaxy. We hereby declare war upon humanity. Prepare to be subjugated and re-educated. The figure stabbed a ceremonial spear into the ground, and the feed cut to black. For a moment, there was silence across the human colonies. Birds continued to chirp, oceans continued to crash on beaches, and orbital gardens drifted peacefully in the void. Then, almost as one, humanity responded with laughter. Across Earth, Luna, Mars, and countless exoplanets, people fell over themselves laughing. Social media platforms exploded with jokes. Hashtags like #WarLOL and #BringSnacks trended within minutes. Artists raced to create memes mocking the invaders. Comedians uploaded skits impersonating the furious, self-important aliens. Bookmakers opened betting pools, not on whether humanity would win, but on how fast it would be over. In the ancient halls of the Seoul Parliament, the Prime Delegate chuckled softly as she sipped her tea. Her aide, a young Martian-born diplomat, stared at her in confusion. "Madam Delegate, they just declared war on us. Shouldn't we mobilize?" She set her cup down with a small smile. "Mobilize? Oh, dear boy. We will mobilize. But not in the way they expect." Across human worlds, emergency protocols activated, not with blaring alarms, but with a polite, almost cheerful series of alerts. Military academies, most of which had long ago been converted into universities or museums, suddenly roared to life. Deep within the core worlds, ancient vaults opened, exhaling the cold breath of forgotten arsenals. Ships older than memory, hidden in orbit around dead moons and frozen asteroids, flickered to life as dormant AIs awakened and began self-repair sequences. At the same time, humanity's greatest minds gathered: tacticians, historians, engineers, even grandmasters of strategy games, called forth by an ancient oath passed down quietly through the centuries. Asterisk, should the need arise, we will remember who we are. Asterisk. The aliens thought humanity had forgotten how to wage war. They were wrong. Humanity had simply learned to value peace above conquest. They had laid down their swords not out of fear, but out of choice, a choice born from hard-earned wisdom. The first alien fleets, bristling with weapons and confidence, moved steadily toward human space. Scouts reported minimal military presence, outdated defensive satellites, and aging orbital fortresses. The coalition commanders laughed, believing victory would be easy. They had no idea that the aged defenses they scorned were part of a trap, a carefully constructed facade. Humanity was not caught off guard. They had been waiting. And they were still laughing. Not out of arrogance, but because they knew a secret their would-be conquerors could not possibly comprehend. When humans fight, they do not fight to survive. They fight to win, with a smile on their faces and fire in their blood. Asterisk, asterisk. As the first battleships crossed the invisible threshold into human territory, the true nature of the coming war began to take shape. It would not be a conquest. It would be a reckoning. Would you like me to continue straight into Section 2 as well? Rocket. Or would you like a very quick recap of how Section 2 will flow before writing it? Of course. Here's Section 2 fully written out, around 720+ words, following the flow we discussed. Hashtag Section 2, the ancient ways remembered. To outsiders, humanity seemed almost comically unprepared. Their cities gleamed with art and architecture, not bunkers. Their fleets prioritized exploration and trade, not battle. Their entertainment revolved around virtual worlds, not conquest simulations. If peace had an avatar, surely it was humanity. But the aliens had made a fatal mistake. They had judged humans by what they could see, not by what they had forgotten to fear. Beneath the serene surface of human civilization, the echoes of a violent past still rumbled quietly. Humanity's history was a river of blood and fire, flowing through the battles of ancient Earth to the terrible wars among the stars during the Age of Expansion. Peace had only come when humans, tired of endless slaughter, had collectively chosen another path. Yet, even during the millennia of peace, humanity had never truly forgotten. They had simply changed how they remembered. In grand arenas, war games were held every decade, massive simulations involving entire cities, fleets, and continents. The best tacticians were celebrated like rock stars, their strategies studied as both entertainment and education. Martial arts never faded, they evolved. Forms like Terrasen combat, zero-G grappling, and etherblade duels were practiced by millions. Strategic thought was woven into everything from child education to the highest levels of governance. And deep beneath the surface of each major colony, vaults existed. They were not just places for relics and artifacts, but entire preserved arsenals, war fleets mothballed in orbit, and databases containing the sum total of humanity's martial knowledge. They were called the Galleries of War, and every human leader swore an ancient oath upon taking office. Asterisk. We remember the price of peace and the tools by which it was earned. Asterisk. When the true Concord declared war, the human response was swift, not with panic, but with anticipation. The old vaults opened. The mothballed fleets stirred to life. And the warriors, dormant but never extinguished, stepped forward once again. General Mara Velasquez, former champion of the Seoul War Games, stood aboard the Indomitable, one of humanity's oldest and most formidable battleships. Around her, a crew assembled. Engineers, tacticians, and soldiers whose skills had been honed not by desperation, but by choice. This, she said, addressing them, is the moment our ancestors dreamed of. They dreamed not of conquest, but of proving that peace is a strength, not a weakness. And, if necessary, they dreamed of reminding the stars who we are. Across the human territories, other leaders echoed her sentiment. They did not assemble vast, clumsy armies like in the ancient days. They formed task forces, small, mobile, devastatingly effective. Elite groups with centuries of accumulated strategic knowledge flowed into action like a well-oiled machine. Before the alien fleets even reached their first targets, the humans struck. In the uncharted depths of Sector Epsilon, a fleet of Taluk warcruisers advanced confidently toward the colony of Haven's Reach. Their ships were bristling with energy weapons, their hulls adorned with banners declaring the downfall of humanity. They never reached their destination. At the edge of the sector, human stealth ships, using cloaking fields generations ahead of anything the aliens had seen, launched a coordinated strike. In mere minutes, the warcruisers were disabled, drifting helplessly as specialized infiltration teams boarded and seized them without firing a shot. The Taluk commander, before his ship's core went offline, had only enough time to stammer a single phrase into his log. They were already here. Word of the disaster spread quickly among the true Concord. Confusion turned to fear. Their intelligence had said humans were peaceful, unready, soft. But these humans fought with surgical precision, with an eerie efficiency that made every move feel inevitable. What the aliens had failed to grasp was simple. Peace had not dulled humanity. Peace had sharpened them. Freed from the burdens of constant war, humans had refined their arts of conflict into something nearly beautiful. They had studied strategy not out of necessity, but out of love for the complexity of it. They had simulated battles of scale and creativity beyond anything the true Concord could imagine. The aliens fought with tactics centuries old, shaped by their own petty squabbles. Humanity fought like a living paradox, improvisational, chaotic, yet terrifyingly coordinated. And above it all, humanity laughed. The laughter was not cruel. It was the laughter of a species who had seen true horror and risen above it, who now faced old enemies with the confident amusement of a master chess player humoring a student. At the Academy of Old Earth, Professor Emeritus Lu Wen, a historian specializing in pre-space wars, gave a guest lecture to millions tuning in live. Our ancestors fought the Great Wars not because they loved bloodshed, but because they were forced to by necessity. When necessity faded, we kept the knowledge alive not to use it, but to honor it. We play at war not to celebrate violence, but to remember that peace is not the natural state of the universe. It must be defended. And now, dear students, we are called once again to defend it. Across human worlds, people prepared not with terror, but with grim excitement. Tailors dusted off old military designs, blending the old symbols with new fashions. Artists painted murals of humanity's ancient victories. Soldiers trained in both ancient and modern techniques, blending sword with drone, plasma rifle with cybernetic enhancement. It was not mobilization. It was awakening. The true Concord had cracked open a door they would soon wish had stayed closed. In the quiet of the void, human fleets formed into patterns that hadn't been seen in 1,000 years, patterns drawn from ancient battles, from simulations, from dreams. And behind them, humanity's laughter continued to echo, growing sharper, louder. The war had begun. The true Concord had declared it. But humanity would define it. Would you like me to jump right into Section 3 next? Rocket. Or would you like a short teaser or battle examples first before we go full into the War of the Laughing Men? Of course. Here's Section 3 fully written around 730 plus words, continuing smoothly from where we left off. Hashtag Section 3. The War of the Laughing Men. The first major battles shattered any remaining illusions the true Concord held about humanity's capabilities. In the Velith cluster, a flotilla of alien ships advanced on the human colony of Solace 3, a relatively new settlement still under construction. It should have been an easy conquest. Instead, they found themselves navigating a field of decoy satellites, each broadcasting conflicting signals, some projecting fake distress calls, others mimicking the electromagnetic signature of battleships. Their formations dissolved into chaos as their ships turned against phantoms. When they finally pierced through the deception and reached the planet's orbit, they encountered no planetary defenses, no ground forces, no resistance. In desperation, the alien commander ordered an immediate orbital bombardment. The ground beneath their weapons crumbled, revealing it had been hollow all along. In seconds, hundreds of human assault craft, camouflaged within the abandoned colony structures, launched into the sky like a swarm of vengeful spirits. They tore through the alien ships, disabling engines, crippling weapons, and boarding vessels with terrifying speed. In less than an hour, the alien fleet was reduced to burning wreckage and surrendering survivors. The humans captured the entire engagement on film and broadcast it live across the galactic network, accompanied by a simple message that spread like wildfire. Asterisk, you came to teach us fear. We came to teach you humility. Asterisk. From then on, every major battle followed a similar pattern. The aliens attacked, confident and orderly. The humans responded with unpredictable creativity, ruthless efficiency, and, above all, a kind of reckless joy that left their enemies bewildered. One alien admiral described it later during a surrender negotiation. They fight like artists, like madmen who find beauty in the ruin of our fleets. Human ingenuity weaponized everything the aliens could not understand. On the toxic world of Venmora 9, human engineers hacked the planet's poisonous atmosphere to ignite spontaneously during atmospheric drops. Alien troop carriers, expecting a standard descent, were consumed in raging infernos before they even touched the ground. Survivors spoke of skies that burned with laughter as human drop pods landed amidst the flames like avenging angels. On the frozen moon of Ira's watch, human forces lured an entire enemy division into an ancient terraforming station. Once inside, the station's magnetic stabilizers were reversed, turning the entire base into a giant zero-gravity trap. Weapons floated uselessly, and human soldiers, trained extensively in zero-G combat, dismantled the enemy forces unit by unit, all while broadcasting an old Earth song from centuries ago, a cheerful, upbeat marching tune. The aliens, raised in rigid hierarchies and inflexible tactics, simply couldn't adapt. The humans, chaotic by nature, adapted constantly. The psychological warfare was perhaps the most devastating weapon. Human comedians, hackers, and artists flooded alien communication networks with memes, parodies, and satirical broadcasts. Enemy morale plummeted as soldiers found themselves mocked in every corner of occupied space. One infamous broadcast featured a cartoon of an alien general tripping over his own tentacles while humans laughed in the background. It went viral across multiple star systems. Entire alien units defected just to escape the humiliation. Behind the scenes, the Human Command Council understood exactly what they were doing. General Velasquez, in a private conference call with other commanders, stated it clearly. When humans fought for survival, we were monsters. Now we fight with laughter, because mercy is woven into our bones. If they had awakened the old humanity, the one that waged the wars of night and fire, they would not face memes. They would face extinction. Even the prisoners of war were treated unusually. They were fed, clothed, and sent back to their homeworlds, but only after being forced to sit through classes on human history, military strategy, and Earth's oldest philosophies. Some aliens returned home wiser. Others returned broken, having glimpsed the true depth of the civilization they had dared to provoke. The turning point came during the siege of Valoran Prime. Valoran Prime was the capital of one of the leading members of the True Concord, a heavily fortified world designed to withstand centuries of siege. Their defenses were the pride of the Concord, layers of shields, orbital weapons, and a fleet numbering in the thousands. Humanity sent just one task force. The battle was shockingly brief. Using coordinated hacking attacks, orbital deception fields, and guerrilla strike tactics, the humans dismantled the Valoran defenses in under 3 days. The final image broadcast to the galaxy showed a single human general, Velasquez herself, sitting in the Valoran council chamber, sipping coffee from a simple ceramic mug while alien dignitaries wept as they signed the surrender treaty. When asked if she had any demands, Velasquez smiled and said, "No demands. Just a reminder. You started this. We finish it with style." That clip was replayed billions of times across countless worlds. At that moment, the True Concord understood the depth of their mistake. They had thought humanity's peace was a sign of softness. Now, they realized the truth. Humanity's laughter was not weakness. It was the warning growl of an apex predator who had chosen mercy for 1,000 years, and who, if provoked, could unleash a storm of destruction with terrifying ease. Across the stars, alien leaders scrambled for a way out. Some sought peace talks. Others fled to hidden refuges, abandoning their forces to their fate. A few, more foolish still, vowed to resist to the last. Humanity, smiling and laughing all the while, prepared to finish what had been started. The reckoning was almost complete. Would you like me to dive into Section 4 next, the final one where the aftermath and new galactic order are revealed? Rocket! We can make it even more epic if you want a super powerful final quote too. Of course! Here's Section 4 fully written, about 740+ words, wrapping up the story with a strong finish. Hashtag Section 4, the new galactic order. The war ended not with a final, grand battle, but with a slow, inevitable collapse. World after world, fleet after fleet, the true concord crumbled under the relentless, almost playful pressure of humanity's advance. No matter how fiercely they resisted, they faced not just superior tactics and technology, but an indomitable spirit they could not match. Humans fought not from hate, not even from rage, but from a place of absolute certainty that they had already won. The few alien leaders who dared stand to the last were met not with overwhelming bombardment, but something far more devastating, a strategic patience that starved them of options. Blockades formed like elegant weaves around their strongholds. Supplies were intercepted with quiet precision. False messages seeded dissent among their own ranks. By the time the humans finally moved in to claim their surrender, most enemies laid down their weapons without a fight, exhausted, demoralized, and humiliated. In the Great Hall of Unity, where once the Concord had celebrated its founding, a new assembly gathered. Humans stood at the center, not as conquerors with chains, but as judges with open hands. Representatives from the shattered Concord, many visibly humbled, attended, heads bowed. At the podium, Prime Delegate Asha Malin of Earth addressed them. Her voice was calm, clear, and utterly without anger. You sought to humble us with violence. You feared our peace, mistaking it for complacency. Now you have witnessed the truth. Peace is our strength, not our weakness. It is not our shield. It is our weapon. We will not enslave you. We will not exterminate you. We will do something far more painful to your pride. We will teach you. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some aliens flinched as if expecting the human leader to reveal some hidden trap, some cruel clause hidden behind her words. But none came. Instead, humanity offered them something radical. A place in the new order. The old Concord was dissolved. In its place, humanity founded the Accord of the Stars, a new coalition built not on dominance, but on understanding and mandatory education. Every member world was required to send their brightest minds to human-run academies where the history, philosophy, and hard-won lessons of Earth would be taught without exception. War was not banned. It was studied, dissected, and laid bare for all to see, so its seductive lies would be recognized for what they were. Former enemy commanders were placed side by side with human tacticians in joint exercises, not to prepare for war, but to cultivate strategy as an art form. Former soldiers were retrained in peacekeeping, engineering, and medicine. Their pride was reshaped into something stronger, a humility rooted in knowledge, not fear. Some resisted. Some railed against the humiliation of it all. But most, over time, saw the wisdom in humanity's approach. Within a generation, a new golden age began. Worlds once devastated by war flourished under human-led restoration efforts. Ancient grudges began to fade. Mixed colonies sprung up where humans and former enemies lived together, sharing stories and building futures unimaginable just a few years earlier. And yet, humanity never truly disarmed again. They never again assumed peace was inevitable. Across the Accord, humanity maintained a small but incredibly elite defense fleet, trained not just in warfare, but in peacekeeping, crisis response, and, when necessary, overwhelming force. Their motto was simple: Laugh loud. Strike swift. Remember always. On anniversaries of the Accord's founding, grand festivals were held. Old battle footage was played not as glorification, but as a reminder of how easily peace could be lost, of how dangerous arrogance could be, and of how laughter could be the sharpest blade of all. The galaxy learned something profound from humanity, a lesson that would echo through millennia. Peace is not passive. It is an act of strength, a daily choice, defended by memory, wisdom, and when necessary, overwhelming and unapologetic action. In the great libraries of New Earth, a monument was erected to commemorate the war. It was simple, a single bronze statue of a human in casual clothing, sitting back in a chair, laughing, not in cruelty, but in pure, joyous amusement. At the base, an inscription read, asterisk, "They mistook our laughter for weakness. They forgot. We are the children of chaos. We laugh, we love, we build, and when we must, we rise." Asterisk, the stars burned on. Humanity, once again, stood not as tyrants, but as guardians of a peace earned through blood, wit, and a memory that would never fade. And somewhere, deep in the cold corners of the galaxy, whispers of humanity's laughter still carried, a warning, a promise, and a song all at once. The 1,000-year peace was over. A new peace had begun, and this time it was built to last forever. The end. Would you also like a bonus epilogue scene? Like 150 to 300 words showing one of the old alien generals visiting Earth decades later? Glowing star. It could make the ending feel even richer if you want.